So welcome to this video, and I just want to talk to you about what's really going on in our society, and it's not what we think. And there is great reason to be hopeful and positive and full of joy. And that may sound insane, to be full of joy when it seems like more and more of our freedoms are being taken away. There are some very negative agendas to do some very awful things to the global population, all of which I'm aware of. But this is even more reason why we should stay in faith, stay happy, and stay joyful. Because the agenda, the agenda that we're seeing unfolding is an agenda to wipe out happiness, joy, peace, light, all positive emotions, all positive states of mind. The agenda is to get rid of those from our society, to create a dystopia of pessimism, negativity, hopelessness, fear, despair. This is the agenda. So the greatest rebellion against this agenda is to keep your heart happy, to keep your mind in the light, which is possible. It's possible, but you need faith. You need to have spiritual focus, which connects you to a higher light, or what we call God, which is a very real experience. But this video is not necessarily about God. It's about understanding that we are being deceived into thinking that we should be afraid, we should be pessimistic, we should be despairing and hopeless. And that's why the media is integral to this entire agenda. Because we're being hypnotized and mesmerized by our screens into a fearful dream. So it's not real. We have to understand so much money is spent on the propaganda which appears before your eyes every time you watch something on YouTube or on a TV channel, on Netflix, on HBO, all of which are propaganda channels, by the way. But the amount of money that's spent on creating and cultivating this hypnotic message, which is designed to steer your mind in a certain direction, which is a direction of negativity, fear, and hopelessness. So you see, the media is the key to all of this. The media is the tool that's being used to try and convince everyone that they should be deeply afraid of the future. They should be very pessimistic about the darkness that's coming. But here's a secret. It's always in the future. It relies on us believing that in the future will come the darkness. In the future will come this dystopia. In the future, you're not going to have any freedom. And so that's why you should fight. This is what the media is saying. This is why you should fight the powers that be. This is why you should riot and revolt against the police. This is what the media is convincing us. Because if you don't, then you're going to lose all your freedom and you're going to be living in a horrific, oppressive dystopia. And this is what all the movies and TV programs have been used for, is to convince us that this is the future, to convince us that dystopia, this dark dystopia, is the future. Because you cannot create a dystopia when the population are happy. You cannot create a dystopia when the people are free and are not reliant on the system, the mechanics of the system, for their sense of freedom and happiness. When the people are happy because they have a spiritual connection, when the people are happy because they and you cannot create a dystopia. You can only create a dystopia by first creating it in the minds of the people. You have to first bring everyone into this state of negativity, doom, hopelessness, pessimism. So that's the first step, and we've been seeing that on our screens, and I have been seeing it on the screens for over 15 years, this idea of projecting a future dystopia, a future dark situation. I mean, even the book 1984, which I believe was written with the government to plant the seed of dystopia, which is now coming to fruit. So the 1984 was like the original seed of this idea of this dark dystopia, where there's no freedom, where you have no freedom whatsoever, and you're oppressed and you're tortured and you're punished. Well, that was the seed, that was one of the first seeds planted. And now, all these years later, we are seeing the media is now ramping up this vision of dystopia in people's minds. It's in here. The media wants to control your mind and control your thoughts so that you create this world, this future in your mind that is coming. And it's coming around the corner. And that's how they keep you in fear. That's how they get fear down into your heart, because it first starts here. It first starts in your mind, and with dread and pessimism and hopelessness and anguish and anxiety about what's coming. But look around you right now. Forget all those thoughts. Forget all the media programming, all the hypnosis, all these programs persuading you that the future is dark. And look around you. Don't think about the lockdown. Don't think about all the things on the news, all the things you've read on websites, all the conspiracy theories. Forget about those and look around you. You have many, many reasons to be deeply appreciative and deeply grateful. You probably have a roof over your head. You probably have food in your cupboard. You probably have a soft bed to sleep on tonight. You probably have family or friends who care about you and whom you matter to. Just consider those things for one moment, because this is what God wants you to focus on. This is the reality that leads you to God. This is the attitude, the perspective that shows you God's reality. And that's an attitude of gratitude. Being thankful for everything you have. Because the media is doing the opposite. The media doesn't want you looking what you've got and where you are and how provided for you are. The media wants you overlooking all of that stuff, all the blessings you have in your life. The media wants you to look over there in the future to when the dystopia is coming, when the war is coming, when all the suffering and misery and oppression is coming. And it wants you to worry and think about all those things, rather than looking, being in this present moment and realizing that you are blessed. We are so, so blessed. And we have to recognize it. It's vital that we stop taking our mind over there in the future and we look at where we are right now, look at what we have right now, and realize how lucky we are, how blessed we are, how fortunate we are, even just to have a roof over our head and a warm bed, to have food in our cupboards, to feed ourselves. These are things not to be taken for granted. The big problem we're all facing right now is that we are so dependent on the media, where many of us are addicted to the media. We have to look at the news and find out what's happening. We have to see what the politicians are saying, and we have to look at the conspiracy theories and see how they're unfolding. I know that a lot of the conspiracy theories are not conspiracy theories. I know that there's a lot of dark things happening. I'm not stupid. I know that there is a lot of hidden agendas going on and unfolding. But the biggest agenda is for your mind, is to take your mind into the darkness rather than allowing your mind to go with God, to be with God, to be in faith, to be in the light, to be in a space of hope and seeing light in the future, seeing a bright future, because that's what God has got in store for all of us. When we devote ourselves to Him, when we give our life to God, we say, okay, I don't want the world, I don't want all this materialism, I don't want consumerism, I don't want to indulge all my desires. I want spiritual truth, I want spiritual freedom, I want spiritual unity with God. Because when we want that and not the world, all the materialism and desires and satisfaction of all our earthly needs and wants, when we turn this way instead and we focus on God, we focus on the light and the gratitude for all the things that we have, then we will not see the darkness. We will not see a dark future. We can see what's happening to other people. We can see where fear is taking people. And you'll be able to see where fear is taking hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. If entire countries, entire nations, entire societies, civilizations, if they all believe the fear agenda and believe what the hypnosis has been created to convince them of, which is that you have to fight for your freedom. If you don't fight, you're going to be suffering big time. If you don't fight, this is what the media is trying to convince everyone about, that you've got to fight the oppressive government, You've got to rebel. You've got to be violent. You've got to become animalistic just to protect yourself and your family. And this is a very concerning thing, that where the media wants to take you is into your lowest desires or your lowest nature, the nature of violence, anger, hatred, brutality. This is where the media, and this is where the evil elite, you might call them, who have evil agendas in the world, this is where they want to take you. They want to steer you away from goodness, the goodness in your heart, from the purity of your heart, from the love, care and compassion you have for other people. And they want you to get completely self-obsessed with your own safety, because that takes you into the animalistic fight or flight mechanism. When you become completely obsessed with your own safety and you forget about your heart, which is not selfish, which cares about other people, when you switch over to only caring about yourself and only considering what will make you safe, what will protect you, how you can survive this dystopia, this nightmare, this zombie apocalypse, as they're now programming us to believe will happen, then if you only focus on that, then you will miss God. You will overlook the providence, beauty and power and salvation of God, who offers his light. And all we have to do is say yes. All we have to do is focus our attention on that light and say, yes, I want my mind trained on that light. I'm not interested in the darkness. I'm not going to believe the lies. And I'm not interested in the media. We have to disconnect ourselves from the media. It's a fear machine. It's a propaganda machine. And it's a hypnosis machine. That screen where you get your information from, that screen which entertains you, even those speakers in which you listen to all those radio songs, singing songs of hopelessness and pessimism and even Satanism. There's a lot of satanic messages now in the pop industry. All of that is hypnotizing your mind into believing the darkness, into focusing on the darkness, and into seeing a dark future. And that's what the media want. That's what the evil elite want. It's a spiritual war, and it's a war for your mind. The good news is, you have the power to choose where you put your attention. It all comes down to this. You have the power to choose where you put your attention. You can look over here, you can look at those screens, you can check the news, you can listen to the news reports, you can read the conspiracy theories and see how this is coming to fruition, how all these horrific plans for totalitarianism are coming to fruition, and you'll start entering the nightmare. You'll get more and more deeply into this nightmare, so sure that it's going to happen. Or you can turn away from all of that and turn towards the spiritual light, which is more real than any of this. The spiritual light has created this world. We can only see and hear and think and feel because of God's light that gives us the power to see and think and feel and hear and taste and touch. So if we turn towards the source, then we can wake up from this dream which may become a nightmare if people do not realize that they're allowing themselves to be led by their fear. People are being controlled by their fear. So if they can make you afraid, if the media can make you afraid, then they control you. Because fear is how you control people. Fearful people can be controlled because you can tell them, well, I know you're afraid, but look, if you just listen to this solution I've got, if we just do this, then you needn't be afraid anymore. So people say, oh, great, yes, please take my fears away for me, make me feel safe. And the reason this is because security and safety is the most fundamental desire, or the most fundamental need that human beings have. The most fundamental need we have is for security and safety. Because once we've got security and safety, we can relax. And it's important on a very fundamental level that we are feeling safe and that we can relax. And then we can turn our attention to other things, other needs, that are less fundamental, but still important. But while we feel insecure, while we feel threatened, then we cannot do anything. We cannot do anything of merit or anything that's worthwhile, anything that's positive. Because all we'll be doing is seeking that fundamental security. We will want to feel safe. So we'll grasp at things that make us feel safe. will grasp at solutions that are offered to us that make us feel safe, like lockdowns and vaccines and all these things which we are told will solve our problems for us. And we'll say, yes, I just want to feel safe. I just want to feel free again. Please give me the things, take me in this direction which will make me feel safe. But we have to get our safety and security from God, from knowing that we are protected by our Heavenly Father, knowing that we are provided for, knowing that we are loved, and that we are welcome into His realm of light, His heavenly realm. We are welcome there. But we first have to see it. We first have to perceive it. We have to look in that direction. And then we can walk down that path once we're looking in the right direction. Because you'll only walk in the direction where your eyes are focused on. You can't look over here and then walk over there because you'll crash into something. You need to look in the direction you want to go in. If you're looking at the screens, you're looking at the media, you're believing everything, believing all these visions of future dystopia and darkness and suffering. If you're looking at that, then you will move in that direction. If you turn towards God, turn towards the light, turn towards spiritual love and providence and beauty, you focus on that, then that's the direction you're going to move in. So we have a choice to make. And it's a big choice because we are so hooked into the media. We're so hooked into the screens. We're so hooked into the clever, deception. It's a big deception to confuse us and to take our minds and make our minds focus on what we think is the path out of this. But the only path out of this is God. No fighting, no war, no battle against the bad guys, no revolution, nothing. We focus on God, and then our mind is illuminated. And then what happens is we start sharing the light. We start radiating God's light through our words, through our actions. From our heart, people in our presence can feel the peace that comes from us. And this is what we need. We need to be in a state of peace so that we can understand what's going on, so we can navigate what's going on. We need to be in a state of peace and faith and trust and hope. Because then we can see properly, then we can see clearly. It's like being intoxicated by all this media information, and we can't see clearly because our minds are clouded with all these ideas and information that we've been fed, we've been programmed with. So we need to see clearly, and we can only see clearly when we're in peace, when our heart's in peace, when our body's relaxed. Then we get some perspective. Then we start off from a level foundation, a level base, because our feet are firmly planted on the ground. We have the reality in our heart of God's light and God's love, because that's the fundamental reality, which is the love and light of God. And when we experience those, when we perceive those, when we can feel ourselves in that realm, in the divine realm, even just feeling at peace in our heart, and there being an absence of fear, and fear is always absent when there is trust. If we trust, there cannot be fear at the same time. So when we trust that God is going to provide for us, when we trust that we need not be afraid, when we trust in God's providence and that miracles are possible, and our trust does need to be strong, it does need to be total, but the rewards from having that faith and trust are fearlessness, are that we become a light in the darkness, and that we can spread the light, the hope, the faith, the joy, because there is great reason to be joyful, great reason to be hopeful. It's because the light is real, and the light is where we belong, and the light is our home, and the light is calling us, and the light is welcoming us. The light is saying, come back to where you belong. And all we have to do is say, yes, I want that. I don't want this. I don't want the nightmare, the dark nightmare of fear. I want the truth of light. I want salvation. I want beauty. I want peace in my heart. I want to be with God. And that's the only decision you need to make. The only decision you need to make is to want to be with God, to want to turn your back on the darkness, all the illusion, all the fear, and want to be with God. Listen to Him, talk to Him, pray to Him, and stay with Him. Trust Him, and you will be guided. Thank you. God bless you and goodbye.